mission trip, that's something that I've been thinking of doing for many years. My partner in my office had been to Ecuador a couple times and kind of inspired me. So I was kind of looking at the right opportunity and a little push maybe, you know. That push came from my son, Garrett. He was a dental student up at the University of Minnesota, and he had met up with a classmate, and his dad is a dentist in near Chicago. And he and his family had been going down to Panama to vacation actually for years, and then they saw a need for dental treatment down there and just education for dentistry down there, and they started to put together a nonprofit. And so they started going down, and they've been doing this for like 8 or 9 years. They go down twice a year, once in the spring to one part of Panama, and that's where we went. And then they go in August too to another part in the rainforest. So we got connected together, and so we went over spring break for the dental students, and proceeded to try to deliver as much care as we could and educate the people down there. The people that we worked with, if you understand, Panama is kind of a country that has, like they call them, 10 providences, and we'll get into that a little bit later. We'll try to move this along, because I know that if I go over, Carolyn will start throwing things at me here. But the area that we were in, it was the Cuna Yala, they call it. It's on the northern section of the country, and they are an indigenous native population, and there's about 33,000 of them in that, and they're very proud people. They try to hang on to their old ways, but then, outside influences are coming in too. And so that was kind of the context that we were going into there. But we'll just kind of move along here. But this nonprofit that his name is Dr. Chris Burseth started, it's called Mission Save a Smile. And they had to work with Panama Health Ministries, and then they had to work with the local people, because this is a tribal area, and so they had to work with the elders of the tribe. Everything we did, we had to go through the elders, and this just happened to be, an area where, like I was saying, they're getting this outside influence, and one of the influences is that it's really close to Colombia, and Colombians, they bring these big trade ships over with full of different processed foods and clothes and things like that. And the problem is that with this processed foods, a lot of candy, and they don't have the dental education there. You can see on the right side there, this was very typical that we saw, just large areas of decay, and especially kids. And then using the resources that we had, this Mission Save a Smile, Dr. Burseth worked with a lot of dental companies, equipment, and also supplies. And they supplied a lot of this stuff. Plus, through his church, they were at the big Lutheran church near Naperville, Illinois, and they supported them a lot. And a lot of the church members would go down in different times to help out with the mission work too. So, a lot of these people were not affiliated with dentistry at all, but they did find a role. This is Panama here, okay? And I always thought of Panama as being kind of a north-south country, connecting North and South America, but actually it's an east-west country. And you've got the Atlantic Ocean up in here. It's actually the Caribbean, and then you got the Pacific Ocean down in here. The Republic of Panama it's probably about 3.6 million people, something like that. And Panama City itself is like 1.5 million. So it's this huge city, skyscrapers and everything. But then you go about 20 miles outside the city, and it's just rainforest or just uninhabited areas or very, very small villages. Then this is what I was telling you about the providences of Panama, where we were. Got to go back one. Panama City, right here, Panama Canal, which everybody hears is right in this area. We were up in this area here in the I don't know if you can't see my mouse up there. Sorry. Well, basically, it's in the upper right in the yellow area, so it's the Kunalala. That's where we were.
They named a town after you, Dave?
What? Go back. Did I miss something? Oh, I guess I don't see it. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I guess so. There's an interesting story about my name, too, and I'll tell you later. But anyway, here's another blown up area. We were up in the San Blas Islands, and all those little islands that you see up in there, they're all inhabited by these natives, okay? But basically, we flew into Panama City, and then we got on this little plane that we flew about an hour and a half over the country and to the north to the islands and that. This gentleman right here is Dr. Chris Burseth. He is in the white shirt there, and he's the one that basically started this with his wife. And this is the guy on the left, my son Garrett, and that's his friend Brian, who is Chris's son. And that's how we basically got connected. These are just some of the views of the islands down below. We'll kind of skip through this stuff since we'll save a little time. This is the plane that we were on. We brought a lot of our equipment with us, but not everything. He had arranged to be able to store some of the equipment at this island. So all we had to do was bring a lot of supplies and things like that, which was a lot nicer. And this is, again, on the guy on the right there is Dr. Chris Burseth. And then what's interesting is that in going down to Panama and that, he had met up with the gal in the middle. Her name was Anna Maria. And she actually grew up on this island, and it's called Achutupu. And when she was young, her family was a little bit more wealthy, so they sent her to Panama City to be educated. And so she actually spent many years in Panama City, and she learned English, and she's fluent English, Spanish, and then also their Kuna language. And then she met up with this gentleman on the left, Howard. He's an interesting fellow. He's an architect from London that was in Panama doing some consulting work. And he went out to the islands and that to kind of help set up their infrastructures and things like that. And he met up with Anna Marie, and then they fell in love. There was about 30 years difference between the two, but they were just happy as larks. And then he helped out with a lot of this coordinating and trying to get Dr. Burseth's nonprofit to come in there. And this is just some of the dental students that were there, and some of the equipment that we had to haul in there. And then if you look back and behind here are some of the thatched huts. And I just want to digress here just for a second. I want to show you exactly where we were. Okay, so if we zoom in, you can kind of see where. I wanted to show you something. This is kind of neat. I love Google Earth. I don't know if anybody's ever worked with Google Earth. You can just zoom right in. You can almost see in Pastor Dan's backyard here. You keep going. It's amazing now. It's kind of scary too when you think about what they can see in satellites. Guys recognize that? Huh? Yeah, there's Pastor Dan's car. So, no. But anyway, you can zoom out, and then what we're going to do, you can see Blue Earth County and everything. We're going to go down to Panama. It goes right to the airstrip that we landed at, right down there. So this is where we landed, and we got on a boat, and we went over to these islands right here. Now, I want to kind of, it may be hard to see a little bit, but if you can kind of get the idea, this island is overcrowded. There's just buildings everywhere. There's no room left on this island, but it's pretty well organized. I mean, they have a school there. They have some government buildings. They have some trading areas. If you look right down below there, there's actually one of the Colombian ships there that was docked and do they trading and everything. But also kind of there's a little lagoon there. And off the lagoon, there's a little medical building that the Panama government had built for them about 10 years ago. And they actually have sometimes a physician, but a lot of times like a nurse practitioner will come in there about once a week and then help out with some of the elements that the people have. But if you look over in this island right over to the right here, this is actually where we stayed. And one of actually Manna Maria's father, he had put together this, what they call a Green Lodge. And a Green Lodge basically is just very basic bones type of resort. You can actually go stay there if you want. And it's beautiful setting and everything. And it's away from the island, which was kind of nice because it was, pretty quiet and everything like that. And we'd get on a boat every morning and go across to the main island and do our work, and then we'd head back for the evening. But I'll show you some pictures of that. Again, in the background, you can see the thatch huts we stayed in, okay, which were really quite nice. And then some of the people there's Anna Marie with her mother, and then also Howard, and then a niece and another daughter. And it was really interesting. You look off to the right, you see that satellite dish. I don't know what it was there for. There was no TV or anything. I don't know. Those wires went nowhere. I don't know. We never got information on anybody either. Well, why is this here? But beautiful setting, It was pretty relaxing. I mean, we worked hard during the day, but and we could come back and relax. It was pretty warm. We were very fortunate that when we got there, that actually was kind of cloudy most of the time and a lot of breeze, which was really nice. And then, of course, before we went down, we had to go through all our shots and all that stuff for malaria and everything. But I never saw one mosquito. The only time that I saw any bugs other than cockroaches were little no-see-ums at the airport, just teeny tiny little things. And I don't know how they stand it, but they were just horrible. This is a typical scene right here. To see the little guy in the boat. That kid was about 8 years old, and he was out there with his buddy, and his buddy had actually just dove right over, and they'd go down and they would find things off the bottom of the ocean, and their seafood and that. But it was amazing that these parents would let these kids head out in the sea, and there was a current going through there too. So, our first day, we guys basically had to get out our equipment and stuff. This is the area that he got to store some of the equipment. We had generators in there, compressors, and then these dental units too that he actually had designed his own dental units. They're called Gorilla Dental, and it all folds up into a little, like a carry-on suitcase size. So you could take it on a plane if you want. Fortunately, we had those down there already. But it's amazing what the salt water does to this equipment. I mean, they had packed it away and dried everything up as much as possible. As soon as you open it up, I mean, everything gets rusted and corroded. We had to clean it all up and get all the cockroaches out and stuff like that. So that took like a day to do just that. And then this is a fun guy here. His name is Jimmy. He just would take us over to the main island and that on this little launch. And then this is when we were going over to the main island. Every once in a while we have some of these ladies join us, and I'll talk a little bit about, but they were just very colorful outfits and very friendly ladies. This is the mainland over here that you could see, and on the mainland what they would do is they would have their gardens over there because there's no place for gardens on the island. It was so packed. And they would grow all kinds of different vegetables and things. And so the women would go over there during the day and tend to their gardens, and the men would go out into the ocean and catch their seafood. And that was like the main form of commerce. There is some tourism there, and they would sell some things there too. But now we're getting down to the nuts and bolts here. This right here building is the clinic that we stayed in. Like I said, it was built about 10 years ago. Again, the salt water is just amazingly hard on this. They had drop ceilings in there with tile, and they were falling down, and the plaster on the walls was just coming off, and it had there was electricity or wire through there, but nothing to power it. So these wires were just hanging all over the place. I don't know what they were for. And we had to power our own, bring our own power. This was a military grade type of compressor that we used, and we had generators here. What was interesting about this picture right here, if you can look, there's the lagoon right there, right next there, but see the kind of stuff right along the shoreline there? It's all garbage. Now, being a very, tiny island with all these people, the only way they could really increase the size of the island is that they would take their garbage and put it right on the shoreline and grow the island over years. When they were here, when they first started coming here, they actually the bay was a lot closer to this building, so it grows over time. It was just kind of disgusting, but it was the way they lived. And we had to do all of our own water. We filtered everything, and we were just very, very careful about everything, of course. This is an oral surgeon that went with us. He actually goes to church with Dr. Burseth, and he was just a wonderful fellow to work with. It was great to have him because these people had extremely, very dense bone, and so when you took a tooth out, it was very difficult. This is his wife. She was just helping distribute some of the toothpaste and fluoride and things like that. The second day, we were just basically setting up the clinic. You can see these wires hanging there. They didn't go anywhere. I don't know. They didn't do anything. And we had our own portable laptops. They're military grade. I mean, you could drop that in the ocean, sand, everything like that. That thing would still keep working. They were pretty amazing. But we also had handheld X-ray units, so we could actually take X-rays of these kids when we worked on beforehand. It was invaluable. We weren't working blind at all. There's a couple ladies that were from the church there. The gal on the right, she is actually a retired teacher. She's fluent in French and Spanish, and then she knew some of the Kuna language too. Because the natives there, a lot of the kids, they knew Spanish. Some of them knew Spanish, some of them didn't. They knew this Kuna language. And so sometimes to kind of communicate with the kids or even the parents, my Spanish was terrible. Garrett's pretty good. But you have to communicate, Spanish through Kuna, and the Kuna language. We learned that pretty well, in certain things like open, close. But the one that I remember was tutu sule. It was be brave, and most of the time these kids were just stoic. I mean, they just sat there. Every once in a while you see a little tear come down the eye or something like that. But we had one little fellow that he was a little difficult, and as soon as we got the mom in there, she said something to him, and like that was it. He was an angel after that. The lady on the left there she's a really interesting lady. She was an IRS auditor, and we had some interesting conversations. So I don't really want to meet you anywhere else. She was awesome. And what these ladies were doing here, they were really in charge of getting the water clean for us to use. I mean, that was extremely important. We just didn't trust any of the water there. And there she was, it was hot, so you had to take a break every once in a while. This is kind of one of our operatories. This is one I worked out of. We used lawn chairs for our dental chairs, and then we just set up boxes and stuff and just tried to do the best you can to set things up. Of course, we didn't have electricity, so we had, headlamps and stuff like that. And this is basically, this is Patty here. This is Dr. Burseth's wife, and she's very fluent in Spanish too, and the Kuna language, which was excellent. So our clinic mainly we worked on the school kids. There's basically 600 school-age kids on the island, and we got them all through the clinic. We didn't work on all of them, but we basically got fluoride to them, toothpaste, toothbrush, little dental education. And then the lucky ones got picked out. Dr. Burseth would do a triage basically and pick out a few kids. Then he would send to me to do fillings and sometimes some extractions. And then the oral surgeon, he did mainly all extractions, and he did a lot there too. So we had quite a system going on there. We really saw a lot of kids, and then the dental students would help with applying the fluoride varnish or assisting us. So they got to learn a lot of things too. They couldn't actually treat on anybody, but they helped us. And then of course we tried to provide as much dental education to the kids coming through, and also their teachers, as they came through too. And then we did, one evening we did a presentation in one of the school rooms for the mothers that went really well too. We tried to educate them there too. So I see I'm kind of running out of time. I'll kind of move along. This is just actually just a shot of one of the kids having some dental work. This is one of the dental units there. Dr. Burseth working there. And this is myself working with my son Garrett. And like I said, these kids were just awesome. This was the maternity ward. And this was right next to my room. It was just basically just a curtain between us. And it wasn't busy until one morning we came in there. And during the night, a lady came in and had a baby there. And this was like maybe 4 hours after the baby was born. She was doing great. And she invited us to come in and see the baby and everything. And my room was known as David's room. So she was next to David's room, so she named her baby Davina. So, for all that's worth, I don't know. But this is a typical scene outside my operatory window, okay? Basically, you can see the lagoon there and this lady in the dugout canoe, but also to the end of the canoe and up above, you can't see it very well, but there's actually a little cage with a pig in it. They would put these pigs in these little cages elevated right out over the water, and that's how they grew their pigs. The kids were playing in this lagoon there too, and if you look really close on the left-hand side there, see that white thing there? That's a disposable diaper, just floating there. And I watched this many times. The late moms would take their kids out into the water, just stand there, take their diapers off, just throw it, and then rinse them off, and then put another diaper on. And then 20 feet away, there's kids swimming in the water. It was mind-boggling. But as soon as these kids saw a camera, they were just beautiful. They would come over and they were posing and doing all kinds of stuff. And this hose right down here, it's hard to see, but after we give the kids fluoride and toothpaste or brush their teeth, they would actually have to rinse their mouth out. So they would pick that hose up. There was water coming from somewhere, I don't know where. They stick it in there, and they were just hilarious kids. They had a lot of these dugout canoes. This was basically coming back to where we were staying. That was a typical scene. The males going out to do their fishing. And then we did some swimming on the other side of the island where we thought was pretty safe. And just some beautiful scenes. Some of the thatched roofs that we stayed in, 20 feet away is the Caribbean. It was awesome. The bedrooms, the rooms were nice, clean. They had bathrooms, running water during the day, no hot water, of course. And they had a shower. You just had to scoot the lizards and the cockroaches out. But it was nice. And they had 3 meals a day they supplied for us, and they brought us to the meal with these conch shells, and they would blow on it. So, of course, Gary and I, being brass players, we had to give it a try, too. So that was pretty fun. But they were, like I said, they're formal. They would serve us in courses and things like that. They weren't huge portions, but I never went hungry. And some of the food was outstanding. We actually had lobster one night that they caught, and it was really good. But this was my favorite meal, these huge prawns. And then they had potatoes, they had vegetables, some of the fish. But these are plantains. I don't know if you're familiar with those. It's basically a banana that's very dense. And we had those boiled, fried, baked. We had them all different ways. But not my favorite, but they were okay. But this is just us. That's the staff that supported us. They were just wonderful. And then we would go into the village at times too, and this little girl had a bunch of birds there, and they were just cute. And this guy here too, he was actually a sewing instructor. He would teach these ladies how to make these molas, and this was one of their pride and joys. They were everywhere, and they tried to sell them to us all the time, which was good. I did buy some. In fact, I'll have some of these downstairs, but they're just beautiful things here. And then they would have all these beads they would have put on their arms and legs. And then we were looking one day, and then we heard this ringing. And way up above in this tree was a cell phone. This guy would scamper up the tree. That's where he had his reception. There he is sitting up there. You see him? You can barely see him. I know, sorry, it's dark, sorry. But, and then every once in a while you see kids walking around with iPods. But mostly, here's to the streets, basically. They're clean and everything. And, of course, just the kids were just absolutely wonderful. And then they had a school, and they wore school uniforms. They were clean, very organized. They had a play area there. And then this guy here was just showing off his shells, which they had a lot of. This guy here was going to get married, and he was building a house. So, basically, he let us kind of watch him a little bit as he built his house. And this guy here was making one of these dugout canoes, and it took him about almost 2 months to make this thing. They'd drag a huge log over from the mainland, and then he would start, hacking on it. And this is just some more of the scenes, but look at this garbage here. And these kids play right there. It's like, wow, at least he's got shoes on. And that's a picture of our island that we stayed on. And then this is, not only did the Colombians bring trade ships over, there's a lot of drug running going up and down the coast there. They would hide in these islands as they're going up along the coast. We didn't see any of that, but we saw a lot of the Panama Coast Guard, looking for them. So, and then the last night, then they brought over some of the kids to do a little presentation for us, and they were just cute. Once you took a picture of 2 guys, soon it was 4 or 5, and there was like 10 or 20, and they wanted to see themselves, of course, in the pictures and everything. And then they did a little show for us too. They sang for us. This girl was like 3 years old. She was cute as a bug. And then the girls, you can see their school uniforms there. And then the girls were actually wearing their outfits for the dance. And then the ladies were just looking very colorful. Whoops, I'm going to go back to this. These little guys here would play these little pipe instruments. And the gals would shake their little like bongo things. And it was really cute. So then we headed back to Panama on the plane on our last day. And then we actually did have a day in Panama, but I'll kind of cut that short since we're running over. But there was some pretty neat things in Panama to see too. And of course the Panama Canal, we went to that too. But, well basically, let me skip back down to here. I mean, this was a wonderful trip and everything, but Pastor Dan said, you don't have to go to Panama to be a missionary and do mission work. This is something that our office has been participating in, and we have this Saturday. And this is one of the reasons why I'm not going back, is we're gonna we do give kids a smile thing at our office on a Saturday. We got our hygienist, Susan, my sister's get involved, and a lot of our staff. And we think that's extremely important too. Plus, I think you probably heard of Mission of Mercy, and that is something that has been in Mankato twice now. The state of Minnesota's had it 3 times. They had it once up in Bemidji too, and then this year it's going to be up in Duluth though. And those are people that everybody gets accepted. You don't get turned away. And in 2 days, we just do as much as we can. We see up to like 2,000 patients. So, like I said, don't have to go out of the country. We want to take care of the people here too. So I think that's it. I'll let you go. I apologize for running over. So.
I appreciated your comment at the end about what you're going to be doing on February 7th. And he's got a skill that he uses, but we all have skills. And as we talk about missionary work, it